Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribrajagacharya Asto Tarasata Shri Mother's Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravind Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koda Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sigaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai Sisi Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Mathura Brindavandam Ki Navadviptam Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees, oh, glorious to the assembled devotees, oh, glorious to the assembled devotees, oh, glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, oh, glorious to Srila Prabhupada. So, we're just about to begin our morning class of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'll ask if anyone is able to put on their video, not the sound, but if the video, if you can click that on, it's really nice. I've mentioned before that if I can see some of you as you can possibly see me, then it really helps in the transference of the subject matter. So if you can pop on your video screen, Jai Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Bo. Nice, lovely to see you all. Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. And we'll if anyone, even if you can't do it just now, you might want to switch on and off if you have to do something that's understandable. You have responsibilities at home and all the rest. That's not a problem, but it's nice to see the devotees. Okay, so this morning's class is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 20, text 29. And we will do a bit of a recap on some of the previous verses as well this morning. And that will hopefully help us get the context of today's verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 20, text number 29. Title of the chapter is Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sila Prabhupada, without whom we would be lost in this great ocean of material existence. We offer our humble obeisances unto His lotus feet. Bhajantyata tvam ata eva sadhavo vyudhashtamaya guna vibramodayam bhavat padanushmaranadrite satam nimitam anyad bhagavan vidmahe. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: great saintly persons who are always liberated, take to your devotional service, because only by devotional service can one be relieved from the illusions of material existence. O my Lord, there is no reason for the liberated souls to take shelter at your lotus feet except that such souls are constantly thinking of your feet. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The karmis are generally engaged in fruitive activities for material bodily comforts. The jnanis, however, are disgusted with searching after material comforts. Chances are we might be becoming jnanis in some way because we can't help get the idea that we are a little disgusted with this searching after material comforts. So there must be a little knowledge being injected somewhere along the line in our path of bhakti. Continuing Srila Prabhupada's purport, they understand, that is, the jnanis understand that they have nothing to do with this material world, being spirit souls. After self-realization, the jnanis who are actually mature in their knowledge must surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhavanam Jamanmante. Self-realization is not complete unless one comes to the devotional platform. Therefore, it is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that those who are Atmarama, self-satisfied, are freed from all contaminations of the material modes of nature. As long as one is affected by the modes of material nature, especially by Rajas and Tamas, he will be very greedy and lusty, and will therefore engage in hard tasks, laboring all day and night. Such false egoism carries one from one species of life into another perpetually, and there is no rest in any species of life. The jnani understands this fact and therefore ceases to work and takes to karma sannyas. He renounces the fruit of activities. Yet this is not actually the platform of satisfaction. After self-realization, the material wisdom of the jnani leads him to the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Then he is satisfied only in contemplating the lotus feet of the Lord constantly. Prithu Maharaj therefore concluded that liberated persons taking to the devotional path have acquired the ultimate goal of life. If liberation were the end in itself, there would be no question of a liberated person's taking to devotional service. In other words, the transcendental bliss derived from self-realization, known as Atmananda, is very insignificant in the presence of the bliss derived from devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj therefore concluded that he would simply hear of the glories of the Lord constantly and thus engage his mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of life. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual masters forcing me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. Bhajantya tvam atta eva sadhavo yudhashta maya guna vibramodayam bhavat padanushmaranad rite satam nimitam anyad bhagavan na vidmahe. Great saintly persons who are always liberated take to your devotional service, because only by devotional service can one be relieved from the illusions of material existence. O my Lord, there is no reason for the liberated souls to take shelter at your lotus feet, except that such souls are constantly thinking of your feet. So, the subject matter of transcendental knowledge is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. At the beginning, it is explaining that Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajganamadvayam pramati paramatmati bhagavanati subjate. And also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying that Bahunam Jamanam te Gyanavam Mam Prapajante Vasudeva Sarvamati Samahatma Sadurlabaha. Samahatma, the great soul, Sadurlabaha, is very rare, who comes to this platform of personal understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because more or less we are interested in the material energy. And if one is able to transcend the material energy as being described here, then one comes to this understanding that I am not of this material world. I am not this material body. The modes of material nature are superfluous to me, and one is established in truth, Brahman, the spiritual energy rather than the material energy. But to come to the platform after self-realization, Srila Prabhupada says in his purport, after self-realization, the Gyanis who are actually mature in their knowledge, if you actually were cultivating knowledge, must surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So it's very rare that we come to this platform. Now, how is it very rare? Or why is it very rare? Is because it can only be understood by the association of pure devotees. Brahmanda Brahmate Kona Bhagavanaji, Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. This seed of devotional service is only to be received in this system of parampara. Evam parampara praptam imam raja shio vidu sakalena hamahata yoga nashta paranta. It is only received through this chain of disciplic succession. And I'm just trying to focus on different verses, but to try and give us this understanding that Brahmanda Kona Bhagavanaji Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. All the Brahmanda is filled up with living entities, and they're wandering this way and that way. We are absorbed in material life, or we are cultivating knowledge, and so on and so forth. Different ways and different levels, but it is described by Shastra that only one who is very fortunate comes into the association of the pure devotees of the Lord and gains this seed of the creeper of devotion, Bhakti Lata Bija. And we can ask very quickly, as devotees, we're hearing Bhagavatam, we think, well, how am I such a special soul? Why we are such special souls is because the special incarnation of the Lord is Lord Chaitanya, is come to distribute pure love of Godhead as his pastime, as the Yuga avatar, and he's coming so mercifully to distribute, which he's known as Namo Namaha Paranyaya Krishna Prema Pradaya Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Tushe Namaha. He's the most magnanimous of all incarnations because he's distributing pure love of Godhead. Krishna is saying, first of all, you must surrender Sarvadhamam Parityagya Mamekam Saranam Raja. Aham Tvam Savi Papibhyo Moksha Yashami Masuchaha. Abandon all duties, all dharma, and surrender unto me. I will then deliver you from all sinful reactions. But Lord Chaitanya is distributing freely without, simply take the holy name. Take this process of Harinam Sankirtan and constant remembering. Take the process of devotional service and take it freely. There is no charge. Because we're not able to pay anything. Why? Because we have no asset. We have no assets to pay. So Lord Chaitanya in the Kali Yuga appears and he's delivering all the Jagais and Madais along with the Panchatattva. So after this self-realization, after coming to realize that the fruit of activities for material bodily comforts, we were just seeing a little quote from His Holiness Mahavishnu Swami, great soul that he is, and he was saying, making the point that there is no soft place in this material world. There's no soft place. We're looking for this soft place, the material comforts. But he says there's no soft place. Do not be fooled. So we're fooled when we think that we will find a soft place, the bodily comforts, that will be comfortable in the material atmosphere. Amapecha Purnajama Dukalayam Shashvatam. Bhagavad Gita says that this place is filled with various miseries and it is temporary. Dukalayam Asashvatam. It is not only miserable, but it is also temporary. So this idea of finding material comforts is such a great illusion. I'm just thinking where we'll pick this up. This is the great illusion that we I'm thinking of Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada, 1971. He was saying, he says here in this purport the same thing, third line. He says that those who are disgusted with this search after material comforts, they understand that they have nothing to do with this material world. And Prabhupada said that everyone is struggling to gain something which he does not possess. And he's lamenting for something that he has lost. But when he himself realizes that he has nothing to do with this material world, that is called Brahma Bhuta, that is the Brahman platform. So when we're able to understand that we have nothing to do with this material world, why? Prabhupada is saying here, because we are spirit souls. Spirit souls are not supposed to be here. So after this realization, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasoshati Nakanshati Samahasavi Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labate Param. When one is thus transcendently situated, when he's equally disposed to all living entities, when he's not bewildered by the interactions of the modes of nature. And this is all leading up to this verse 29. I just went back a little bit and see that one must remain equipoised in text number 16. It says that one should remain equipoised in all circumstances. So this is the actual position of the devotee. And it's interesting to note that Krishna himself, he begins his instructions by this very simple verse of the Bhagavad Gita that we learn. Matra sparshas dikuntaya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nityas tams tatiksha sasvabharata. That one has to tolerate this happiness and distress. And in all circumstances, one must remain equipoised. Matra sparshas dikuntaya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nityas tams tatiksha. One has to learn to tolerate, to teach sasvabharata, and to be equipoised. So this is the way that, and in that verse, actually, the 26 qualities of the pure devotee are listed. So this section of the Bhagavatam is discussing all of the aspects of karma and yoga and gyan, and that one who is a devotee should go beyond. Prithu Maharaj is being encouraged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to go beyond the sacrificial performances that should be performed, but in this circumstance that he's faced with, that he's performing the 100 horse sacrifices, he's at 99, Indra has a problem, he's a little very envious of Prithu Maharaj, and we have a bit of a problem, a bit of a difficulty. So the Supreme Lord is pointing out to Prithu Maharaj that one should, a real devotee of the Lord is recognized by the qualities of pure devotion, and they're listed there. I can quickly turn to that. Why not? 2016. Okay. Yes. These qualities of a devotee, 26 in number, are listed as follows. Devotee is kind to everyone. Devotee does not quarrel with anyone. He's fixed in the absolute truth. He's equal to everyone. Devotee is faultless. He's charitably disposed. He's mild in his behavior. He's very clean. He's very simple, not making things complicated unnecessarily, we could say. 10th, he's very benevolent, wanting to do good to others. That devotee is peaceful, completely attached to Krishna. It's a very amazing one, to be completely attached. That means he always thinks about him, he's always serving him, he's always chanting his name. He's just completely attached to Krishna 24 hours a day. 13th quality is that he has no material hankering. He's not hankering, neither is he lamenting. No material hankering. Wow, wouldn't that be nice? He's very meek, close to gentle, but meek. It's the interesting words. 15, he's steady. He's not tossed around by the dualities of the material world. Very steady. The 16th is that he's self-controlled. So that is a big thing, to become self-controlled, because generally we're in the material world, we're out of control. We're controlled by the modes of nature through the vehicle of the mind and uncontrolled senses. So to be self-controlled, oh, fair enough, self-controlled sounds small. All these qualities, if we just say them, you think, oh yeah, self-controlled, steady, oh, fair enough, meek, yeah, fair, I got that. But actually, if you spend some time, you could go into each one of them and see that they're quite massive, each one of them. They're the greatest qualities that any living entity can possess. Next one, number 17, does not eat more than required. Okay, fair enough, got that. But to control the tongue is the most difficult. So controlling the mind is difficult. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, it goes out. It should be kept in a zoo, in a cage, the mind. And the next thing we hear, it doesn't eat. So that requires to control the tongue. Of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. So to control the tongue is not an easy thing. It wants to speak constantly, doesn't stop. Therefore, we have to take the mona vrata. And that mona vrata means that we don't sit silently, but we desist from speaking unnecessarily about mundane things of this world, the gramya kata, the talk of the village. What are we talking at down here at the well? And it seems nice, it seems important. And why not? We're here to enjoy life. We're here to be happy. So why not have a chat? Why not? But the Bhagavatam points out, the Bhagavatam is transcendental to material subjects and material matters. It goes straight to the essence. And it says, what is the use of this Gramya Kata? Why does it say that? Because it keeps you in the Gramya, it keeps you in the village, life after life after life. So the tongue has to be controlled from the speaking, and it also has to be controlled from the eating. We like to eat ferociously, this, that, and the next thing. And it goes on and on and on until we're eating just like the hogs and dogs that eat stool. So that Lord Rishabhadev spoke to his sons in that way, that this human form of life is not meant simply for sense gratification, which is available to the hogs and dogs that eat stool, but rather it's meant for performance of austerity by which one can gain Brahmasokyam, that happiness that we're actually searching for, which isn't available through all these different activities in the material world, but it is spiritual happiness, and it continues eternally. So we may become inspired by that. We hear about that, we think, ooh, that's what we're after. So this is another league. It's a higher level of existence. That's what the Bhagavatam offers. So do not eat more than required. The 18th one is to be sane. Oh, fair enough. I'm not insane. People, we read that, we think, to be sane. Oh, fair enough. I'm sane. But if we are not fully Krishna conscious, then we are more or less crazy. We become mad after materialistic living. And what happens is when we become mad, when we're not sane, we engage in all kinds of sinful activities which perpetuate our existence and birth and bodily life. So again, if we unpack it just to a small degree, and nunam pramata means mad. Nunam pramata kurate vikarma. When a person considers sense gratification to be the goal of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. He doesn't realize that the body he has now has been gained due to past sinful activities, and if he continues in this way, you'll get one body after another. So this is pramata, this is mad. So the devotee is sane. He sees what is the use of this prolonged existence in pursuit of sense gratification. Better a moment's self-realization, because then I can begin this process of emancipation, of elevation through the modes of nature, from passion and ignorance to goodness, from goodness to transcendence, from transcendence to appreciation of the personal form of the Lord, that although he is everywhere in everything, he's within the heart as well. He is also Bhagavan. He is the Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the personality of Godhead, the all-attractive one. That is the name, Krishna. So this is the sane path. Just continuing again, 19, there's a few more to go. I won't go on to too many, but you can just see this is the different way. And this is the way that Prithu Maharaj is being encouraged by Lord Vishnu to come, not to stay in just even performance of the yagya that he's performing. Don't be attached like that. We've heard that in previous verses. Don't be attached. You have to remain equipoised in all circumstances. So this is a very difficult circumstance. We hear that Lord Prithu Maharaj is in a very difficult circumstance. He's come to establish Dharma, and Indra's taken the form of a renunciate, and he's um, flying in the face of this dharmic activity. Why he's doing this? So it's natural Prithu Maharaj is wanting to respond, but he's being encouraged. We're at a very high level of consciousness here. So don't act like this. It's not befitting someone like yourself to act in envy that actually you may kill Indra. This is not what we need. So he's being encouraged in this way to restrain and make adjustment. So that is discussed in the other verses. I'll just finish this section because there's all these qualities. So we got to say the next one is he's respectful, and we see that in Prithu Maharaj. He becomes respectful to Indra in his actual exalted position, even though he's acted against him. So this is the way a devotee has to function. 20, he is humble. Again, we could talk a lot about that, actual, what that means. So we say, oh, I'm pretty humble. See, we read these, isn't it? We read these qualities and think, oh, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm a bit poetic. I'm humble. Yeah, I suppose I am. And we offer a bit like that. But in a moment, we become angry, we become frustrated, we become agitated, and we manifest our false pride. So humble, grave. I am pretty grave. 22, compassionate. 23, friendly. 24, poetic. Yeah, again, you can see how, again, simply poetic. Oh, yeah, I write a poem once a year to my guru. I write a little poem and stuff. That's nice, definitely. That's very good. But there's a whole depth of understanding of poetic, what it means to be poetic. 25, expert. Wow, expert. And 26, silent. Better not say much about that because we have to show that we can be silent. So these are some of the qualities, and we see the Bhagavatam and these different pastimes of the Lord is diving deep into these qualities of the devotee, and it doesn't stop. And so this is the purification has to continue. So we have to tolerate the happiness and distress of the winter and summer seasons, and then we have to tolerate the insults of others. We have to tolerate the defamation of ourselves. We have to tolerate so many things, and we must retain these qualities all the way. There's not a time, because you know why? Krishna has all these qualities. Krishna possesses them to the ultimate degree. So his devotees also have to possess all of these qualities. So moving slightly forward, in text 18, I just made a comment. As devotees, we should not fight perpetually, Prabhupada says in his purport. It is our duty to adjust the cause of any envy. So we hear that devotees, we're supposed to, or we are advised to only associate, I've mentioned this many times in the past, we associate with devotees and give up the association of non-devotees. Yes, we'll all agree to that. Yes, that's the instructions of Shastra. We should associate with devotees and give up the association of non-devotees. Now, what that means, one thing that it means is that both, if you're only associating with devotees, your happiness and distress, which we all have to experience as we go through life, is going to come from devotees because we only associate with devotees. So both your happiness and your distress is going to appear to come through the association of devotees. So this is a very interesting one. So it comes up that we should not perpetually fight. It is our duty to adjust the cause of any envy that may come up in interaction. So that's another big task for us to see. And Prithu Maharaj was able to hear about this and take the higher instruction and adjust And Prabhupada says in his purport that we should learn how to do that, to adjust without difficulty. If there's some impasse in certain relationships, and that is the ongoing practice of the devotee. In text 20, one point there that has been mentioned, the Lord is known as Suritsatam, the well-wisher of devotees. And this is not partiality, it is natural. So that is another point that's mentioned in this section of Bhagavatam again. The Lord is sometimes seen by the demons to be disposed to his devotees, and that he's showing partiality, but actually Krishna, Supreme Lord, is equally disposed to all living entities. It is us who have the choice whether to take the mercy of the Lord or to reject, just like to place ourselves in the sunshine. The sun is not partial, the sun is shining everywhere, but we have the individual choice to come into the sun or to hide ourselves from the sun. So this is not the partiality of the sun. So the Lord's mercy is that he's well-wishing everyone in every action, although it appears sometimes that he kills the demons, but killing the demons is his benediction. It doesn't do them harm. It gives them freedom from the material body. So everything that Krishna does is all good. In text 21, I thought it was relevant that, or worth mentioning, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the greatest calamity in life is to become godless and thus sinful. So as soon as we become godless, we will naturally become sinful, because it is only God that keeps goodness. Goodness is coming from God. And as soon as we remove God, we will enter into sinful activity. That's just like the light being switched on. And as soon as the light is gone, then it's dark. So whenever God is removed, it becomes dark. Goodness returns to sinfulness. And another point there is, again, I'm mentioning these because it all comes together in this whole pastime of Prithu Maharaj. The ruling chief must be ideal, and it's mentioned there, Adi Raj, original king or ideal king. That's the nature of the king. The king is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And his first duty is to give protection to the citizens. And how does he do that? How does he give that protection? By upholding religious principles, because those religious principles protect the prajas, or the members of the society. It's religious principles, which means Krishna. The religious principles are there to connect us to the Supreme Pure Personality. So the king is to uphold, protect the religious principles, and thus give protection. And it's just worth noting, some people were talking about that, I think in the UK, yes, the king, it just comes up, the king, the new king is there. It was actually somebody put it up on some WhatsApp or some one of those things, and they were saying, will it be the Queen's birthday this year? Because now there's a king, will it be the king's birthday? We will have to change that holiday weekend. And I'm sure people, the administrators of governments, will think, oh yeah, what do we do about that? So someone was asking this thing about the king, and I thought, no, I'm not going to stay up to midnight and watch all that stuff. I saw a little clip. It was an 8-minute clip, and I thought of the coronation of the king. So I thought, okay, let's just quickly just have a look to see what kind of regalia and stuff goes on. So I thought it was worth looking. So I watched for 2 minutes out of the 8, and then I thought, after 2 minutes, I thought, yeah, okay, we've seen what we need to see. It's so lamentable, lamentable to see that the king of a country these days has no power. In the Bhagavatam first canto, or maybe second canto, Srila Prabhupada speaking, and he says that the king must be given absolute power. Absolute power. And therefore the king must be qualified, fully qualified. This is the only answer to all the problems of the world. There needs to be God at the center. So how can God be in the center? There has to be a God-conscious king who will uphold religious principles, and he must have absolute power to rule. So you can't give that at people to absolute power. We want democracy. We have to have checks and balances. Checks and balances are required. And even okay, so Krishna's answered everything. Checks and balances, yes. If you give absolute power to the king, then the check and balance is Brahmana. The Brahmana has to be, the Brahmin community gives the check and balance, but he is given absolute power. And we see that again in the story leading up to this story of Prithu Maharaj, King Vena. So King Vena had absolute power, but he misused it terribly. And gradually, after so many attempts to rectify his mentality, then the Brahmins had to take action. So Krishna's already in this Chaturvarnyam, he's got the 4 orders and everything has its balance. Yeah. So the king is supposed to, he is invested with absolute power. The Brahmins would allow that, and the king's word was absolutely taken. But now we see this little person gets up and they have no power whatsoever. Practically, it's insignificant, and they may have may make speeches which say, "I'm here to serve, not to be served," and it sounds very meritorious. You think, "Oh, that's very nice. That's very devotional," and it's a reflection of what we should have. But he or she, king or queen, they have no power in these days. And the power has been usurped by fools and rascals who are voted into some position. They have no idea how to do what they should be doing. And we see one leader is elected and then rejected, elected, rejected. And the only reason they're elected is because they promised sense gratification to the people. Yes, he will provide this gratification. He will adjust taxes this way. He will make this arrangement, make this, so that we can all enjoy here in the material world in our dreamlike state. And I was just thinking also that, you know, it showed the King of England, United Kingdom, and Queen waving to the people. And so there's so many people there. But I think it was recently they said in New Zealand that at least 50% of the people in New Zealand, because it's still connected, New Zealand to the UK, and they were saying, we want a republic, because what is the use of this? And that is there even in the UK also. So some people, say for example, 50% are there, they're saying, no, keep the dream. Keep this dream. It's a great dream. It's a noble dream. It's good to have monarchy. We all, because that is the natural tendency, inclination of the living entity to worship somebody who is great and powerful and benevolent and kind and protective, all of those things. So we want that so much. So if we can't have it, we can dream about it. We can fake it. And we want to have that in our lives. And the other half are saying, no, this is foolishness. This is a scam. It's a sham. It's an illusion. So we should abolish and demolish this monarchy and so on. But it's caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, out of the frying pan into the fire. There's no shelter either with monarchy these days or without it. So it's very sad to see. So the greatest calamity in life is to become godless and thus sinful. It will come automatically. Take God out, sinful activity is the only answer that we have. And instead of having an Adi Raj, we have whatever we have, and exacting taxes. And the people, it said in the Bhagavatam, will flee the cities. And yeah, it's a big subject again. They will flee from their homes. because they'll be so harassed by governmental manipulation and restriction and control and taxation and inflation and all the stuff. So positive change, I've just written a note here, positive change can only be brought about by a change of heart, not by legislation, punishments. Yeah, so that is the government. Yes, we will legislate, we will make laws, and the people will be forced in this way and that way to, and we'll bring about prosperity and peace. No, no, that is not the way. Because we're not changing the heart. If the heart is filled with lust, anger, madness, illusion, and envy, then there will never be peace and prosperity in this world. There will be no happiness. And somebody, I think we were discussing actually on this medium anyway, that was a small point. I was just remembering some point so we'll let that point go. So continuing on, then I'll just continue for a little longer, and then we might I will actually I'll tell you what I'll do. Actually, I was going to think I'll continue a little bit because I have some other points to make, but maybe we'll just pause there. If there's anything that you would like to reflect on, anything that we've been discussing in these verses, today's verse and the ones that I've been speaking on so far, which is basically from text 16 through to about 22. If there's anything there you want to make a reflection, please feel free to unmute and make your reflect. Anything that's stuck in your mind, you might want to reflect back. Then we can take that reflection, open up a little bit, broaden the conversation.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, thank you so much for another wonderful talk. I was wondering, in regards to not associating with non-devotees, I have some friends who come to the outreach centre here in Hamilton, and they're not devotees, but what to do there, because I don't want to cut them off. I would like them to keep coming to the Mantra Lounge. So what to do?
Hey, I think that's a good idea, that you try to not cut them off. So yes, it's the distinguishing between giving your association and taking their association. So devotee is always encouraged to give their association. So that is the idea, rather than taking their association. So for example, say if they say you want them to continue coming, they say, oh yeah, well, why don't we just go up to the pub for a quick lunch and we'll have something to drink while we're there. So I would suggest, and I'm sure you would also, that mightn't be the best idea. You might have to say that, oh, I've got an appointment. I'll just remember. To take their association is not going to help them. That's just going to, not going to help them. But if you can give them your association, if you may say, hey, why don't we? So you're at the Mantra Lounge, and that's all great, and that's first class. But if you feel, if they say, why don't you ever come out with us or take time and so on like that, you might be able to say, well, hey, why don't we meet in the park for lunch one day, or something that allows you not to be in a compromised situation, which will not really help them, and it will not help your devotion either. So if you meditate on it and pray to Krishna, that Krishna, please get me into it. It's not that you have to create such things. I'm not encouraging that you have to do that. But if you're in a position where you feel a bit compelled due to social circumstance to show that you're broad-minded enough to be with people who you're trying to cultivate, then Krishna will give you the intelligence how to do it. He might not give you it instantly, but he might just, if you just pause and take your time a little bit, it'll come. and you'll think, I could do that. That's a good idea. And remember to thank Krishna when you get that idea. It wasn't your idea. So does that give anything help there, Mataji?
It really does. Thank you so much. It's very helpful and inspiring.
Okay, Krishna, Krishna. Okay, any other reflections? Okay, we'll just continue. In the 23rd verse, I noted material benedictions. So we're hearing about that Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is offering to Prithu Maharaj different benedictions, and we hear this in different pastimes. The Lord is so benevolent, he wants to always give. He's all giving. So it's natural. But the devotee is not very much interested in this verse. Material benedictions, including merging into the Lord's existence, even that liberation from material existence, they're not at all desired by pure devotees like Maharaj Prithu. And we heard that the other day in the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsingadev. Lord Nrsingadev, after he had killed Hiranyakashipu, said, "Dear Prahlad, what benediction can I offer you?" And Prahlad Maharaj is saying, I don't want, that sounds like a business arrangement. I pray, you come, you kill the person that's giving me a problem, and then I get some benediction. But he said, I don't want anything. And then he gathered his thinking. He said, I would only like that I can remain at the lotus feet of my spiritual master Narada Muni, and that is a benediction that I request. And if I have to ask for anything else, then please, then give some benediction to my father, who is very demonic. So he didn't hold any envy, even to his father, who wanted to kill him. It was so. Devotees are not interested in these things. They're more or less phantasmagoria. And then we hear in text 24, the glories of the Lord are all the more relishable when heard from the mouth of pure devotees. Nigama kalpataro galitam phalam sukham, like that verse, the third verse of Bhagavatam, first canto. It says it becomes all the more relishable by the liberated souls when it's coming from the lips of a pure devotee like Shukadev Goswami. And that is the potency of hearing from pure devotees only. Prabhupada in the purport goes to great lengths to discuss that the words is very potent when uttered by pure devotees only. So we have to hear from the words of the acharyas and the great devotees of the Lord. And then Prithu Maharaj says, yes, I have a desire to have millions of ears so that I can hear from such pure statements from Shastra and pure devotees of the Lord. And then in text 26, Prabhupada speaking, voice of pure devotee is very powerful because it touches the particle. This is a very poetic, that quality we spoke of. So this is a very poetic verse of the Bhagavatam. It says, the voice of pure devotee is very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. So the Lord's feet are always decorated with tulsi leaves and saffron particles, and also chandan sometimes. This powerful speech connects the hearer, or reawakens the conditioned soul's relationship of service. So it's very powerful. When we came in contact with this, the words of Srila Prabhupada and these wonderful scriptures, the Srimad Bhagavatam, isn't it? It just immediately breaks through all the layers of conditioning, which were so important to us. We thought, this is my football team, this is my job, this is my career, these are my friends, this is my family, this is my country. So many conditioned aspects to our life, and it all seemed very important. And then when we hear from the words of a pure devotee, then all of that is dissolved, and we understand that I am not this body. Huh? What is that verse? Yashatma buddhi konape tridatuke svadi kala tradishu boma ijadi yatirtha buddhi salile nakarichi janeshu abhijneshu sa eva gokara. The Bhagavatam explains that when one thinks or identifies himself with the corpse-like body made of mucus, bile, and air, and thinks that that is myself, and when he thinks that his family, his relations, his identity in this material world is permanent, that they're permanently mine, and when one thinks the land of his birth to be worshipable, I am Indian, I am African, I am whatever, and so on. It goes on to explain, then he's no better than a cow or an ass. The human form of life is not meant simply to be of that consciousness that I am this body, these are my relatives, this is my place of birth, and then you die. The human form of life is not meant simply for that, but it is meant for the cultivation of my higher understanding of life and existence. So this is human life. And until we come to that point, we're simply flapping dead bodies. The body is animated by the soul, and then it dies after some time. So what is the value of a prolonged duration of life? Inexperienced by years in this world. Better a moment's full consciousness. If we can get that from the lips of the pure devotee, hearing from Bhagavatam, better even a moment, because that gives one a start in searching after one's supreme interest, not the temporary interest of a little bit of gratification here and there. But that's not satisfying to us. We want complete satisfaction. So that's never available on any of the platforms, whether we're materialists, whether we're cultivating knowledge, whether we're doing yoga, whatever it is. Bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakali ashanta. Krishna bhakta naish karma atta eva shanta. Whether we're a bhukti, the material sense gratification, mukti, we want liberation, or we're a yogi, bhukti siddhi, the yogi, whatever, we still are wanting something. And this is not me speaking, but it's the Shastra saying that if we analyze it carefully, there's a desire. We're not feeling complete. We're feeling that we need something, we want something. So materialist is going in that direction through sense gratification, thinking I can become satisfied. The mystic yogi is performing, he's thinking the more powers I have, then he's still wanting to have. And Krishna Bhakta Naishkama. So the Krishna Bhakta, if we analyze not ourselves, I wouldn't advise we just analyze ourselves here, but we analyze the lives of the pure devotees, they have no desire. They don't want to merge into the body of the Lord. They don't want phantasmagoric sense gratification in higher planets. They don't want anything. They simply understand that I am a servant of the Supreme Lord, and it is my greatest honor and pleasure to give up all this phantasmagory and serve the Lord, because the Lord explains to me that that is the nature, just like the finger is naturally meant to serve the rest of the body through the via medium of the stomach. If it acts independently and takes a sweetmeat and tries to enjoy it by squishing it, and it's foolish. It's not a reality. It can't enjoy separately from the body. In a similar way, when we are able to understand that we cannot actually enjoy separately, but we can enjoy and feel complete health and freedom by serving the Supreme Lord, connecting in that way. So, and Prabhupada says, once one knows this, in the 26th verse, 3 verses back from where we are today, Prabhupada says, one will not give up this process of hearing and chanting about the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless he is an animal, a non-Aryan. So once taking to this, we should never, that would be the greatest folly, is to give up this process. So we may have to, we will get knocked off our perch, so to speak. We'll find difficulties, we'll find challenges on the path. It will come in the different ways we're challenged. But we should know with all, and we should have all confidence that my path is very clear. There may be some obstacles apparently on the way, but Srila Prabhupada said, I can kick those with one kick of my foot. I will kick out all obstacles. One devotee was writing to Prabhupada, I'm faced with some obstacles. Prabhupada said, what are those obstacles? I'll kick them out with one. Because when we have this clarity, the knowledge, it becomes very clear and it lights up the sky in our heart. And 28, we'll finish in a couple of minutes. Generally, Vedic sacrifices are performed for elevation to heavenly planets in text 28. It's all done under the three modes of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one should, it's interesting, everything's in Bhagavad Gita. He says that to Arjuna, rise above these modes of material nature. The Vedas, these Vedic sacrifices, etc., and the Vedas themselves, they are dealing mainly with the three modes of material nature. So he says, don't be attached to this Vedic sacrifices, but rise above them and be established in the self. That is the secure position. And that will bring us to this platform of transcendence. It's very interesting. We're one purport in this section, just text 20, somewhere between 26 and 28. Srila Prabhupada says that he refers to Prithu Maharaj as an ordinary living entity because he's Jiva Tattva. He's empowered, excuse me. He's described as Shaktavesh avatar. But Srila Prabhupada makes the comparison between, and I think it is text 28, where Lakshmi, Prithu Maharaj says that if I fully take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, then Lakshmi Devi, she is there and always at the serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Maybe she'll become angry with me. And that purport, Prabhupada points out that this difference is there. Lakshmi is internal potency of the Lord, and she's not a Jiva Atma. But Prithu Maharaj is, although he's specifically empowered. So it's very interesting. So we've got a long way to go. There's a beautiful song sung to Srila Prabhupada. When I've got a long, long way to go to taste that love that he feels inside. So we've got a ways to go, but that's a source of great joy and happiness. We do have a way to go, and that way can be as long and short. It doesn't matter. We're on this path. We take the association of the Bhagavatam. We take the association of those persons who are also taking that association of the Bhagavatam, and in this way we'll overcome any obstacle. So I'm just realizing that we need to finish there. So if we have any reflections at the end, please feel free. We can spend 5 minutes only. If you have any reflection that you'd like to make, or any correction or any omission. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Oh, is that Abash?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, thank you very much for the nicely explaining the real issues of life and the real goal of human life. And you have nicely told that we have, when we mix with the devotees, or when the devotees meet with other people, we have to remember that we give their association and we do not take their association. So nicely explained when the other devotees asked about it. And in this context, I think you have also already explained. One thing is very important, that we should always remember that this, when we say so-called calamity and so-called prosperity, the real calamity is that when we forget the Lord, that is the real calamity. And real prosperity is that when we remember the Lord. And in this way, we can, this is the, we can say, tower house for us.
This
that
is the
gives,
what?
it is a light, the light, beacon light for us,
Yes.
giving, that is the thing we should always remember, that if we forget the Lord, then our whole problem comes in, and we are in the midst of ocean of difficulties. But when we remember that Lord is, we are serving the Lord will take care of us.
Mm.
And we need not have to be worried about, and we can remain, we can remember that the highest person is taking care of me, so why should I worry?
Nice. Nice reflection, Prabhu. Thank you so much for that. It just, that one point that we were discussing there, I think it was Jade Mataji that was asking the question. So even, and I'm just drawn to this list here, it says quality number 20 is to be humble. So even when we are giving our association and not taking the association, it should be done with humility. We should be careful not to be proud and self-righteous, that, oh, I'm going to give them my association. And people will feel that if it's a feeling of self-righteousness or superiority in some way, then people will feel that, and they will not be encouraged very much by our association, so to speak. But if it's done in a humble way, then it will be very much appreciated by everyone. So always keep the humility. Thank you very much for that reflection. Anybody else that has a reflection?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandod Pranam.
Oh,
This is
Poshak.
Poshak. Yeah, Hare.
No
Thank.
both Poshak and Abbas, you haven't turned on your
Yeah, let's turn it on.
I find it, yeah, please, I don't know if it's a good habit or not, but it's so nice. Hey, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, good to
Hare
see
Krishna,
you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I know sometimes you can't, because sometimes we're at home and maybe someone's doing something, but if you can, it's always good when I can get
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your wonderful realizations. So really, so like very good insights you shared with us. So Prabhu, you were saying you were talking about this insanity. So you're saying this material world is it's insane. It's mostly insane. But
Yes.
I was just thinking, like sometimes it is said, like if you're in an like an insane asylum or something,
Yes.
and then the sane person is seen as the insane person. The person, because he's like the minority, right? Like the person who's sane, he's seen as the insane. So all the person. So like how do we understand that, and how do we behave accordingly, Prabhu? Like how do we,
I love it. That's such a nice thing. It reminds me of the story that Prabhupada told, and we've heard this many times, where he says that in Calcutta, I think even I mentioned this last time we spoke, but in Calcutta there was one man being prosecuted for murder, and his lawyer presented that actually he was insane at the time. And then the judge said to the surgeon, the doctor person, they called him a surgeon at that time, that to examine the patient, examine the accused and give me your verdict. So after some examination, he came back and gave the verdict. He said, actually, in my experience as a psychiatrist, that everyone is more or less crazy. More or less, it's just a question of degree. So this was his statement. So as you're saying, pretty much everyone's more or less crazy. And they will see, there was a very interesting BTG article maybe 40 odd years ago, and it was called Who is Crazy? And it was presenting that devotees think that everyone is crazy in this mad material world, and the people in the material world are thinking, you guys are crazy. we're enjoying so many things, and you're just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, and so on. So you're crazy. So your question, Poshak, is what to do? We're in this hospital. They think we're crazy. One would be to create an environment of sanity and somehow induce. Prabhupada used the word in one of the purports not far back here in the Bhagavatam, where he said, we have to learn how to induce. And he also, he said, how was it? He said the king, it was in relation to this, this whole pastime of Prithu Maharaj. The king has to induce his citizens to perform their proper duties. And then Prabhupada later in the same purport, he said that is also the duty of the spiritual master, and it's also the duty of parents, how to induce their dependents to continue the path. So we as devotees, we have to think always how to induce people who are more or less absorbed in material life, so that we can create an environment. So that's what we do. We say, come to the loft, come to the program. We try and make a program, the Festival of India, or something to attract people, that they will feel, oh, this looks good, I could enjoy that. That looks as well. I'd like to go to the food festival. We have a food festival. And then when they go there, they feel comfortable, and there's an environment non-threatening to them. And then we can somehow create an atmosphere where there's a bit, oh, these people are not so crazy. They're kind of nice food, and they're kind of friendly. And we just allow them to enjoy that, and we're giving them prasadam. And then if we, as I was mentioning earlier, and you know, I'm sure, for so many years of devotional life, that Krishna will give us the opportunity. We don't have to force it. We can just be relaxed, create a nice atmosphere, and then you'll find Krishna will give you the opportunity to be able to say something. That will be helping them to take that next little step towards sanity. We should be definitely convinced that what's going on in the world is insane. The pursuit, you're going to die, my dear sir. Anyway, that's another, we could talk all morning, but I hope that's something, Pushak Madhav Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Krishna is our sweet, he's our dear friend. He's very close, and if we give him the chance, the opportunity, he will give us everything. He will give us the intelligence when to. Sorry, Prabhu, you're going to say something else?
No, thank you for it. And just also you mentioned mentioning about monarchy, and how there's no, people are not qualified for monarchy. And at the same time, democracy is not perfect. So in this context, because of the failures of, because of the faults of all of us in Kali Yuga, where we are not qualified. So is there at all any alternative to democracy? And like, what are the, and how can, I know it's probably a very big question, probably a big discussion in itself. So what can democracy, like any ideas that democracy can adopt to become better?
Yeah.
Because is there any alternative at all to democracy in this age?
Yes, I get your question, and you've practically answered it in one sense, because it is such a big subject. Srila Prabhupada did mention it again in the first two cantos. Everything is there in the first and second canto. And Srila Prabhupada speaks, I think it's second canto, the first few chapters, he speaks at great length about this subject. And he says, only when there can be the leadership, whether it's democracy or whether it's monarchy or whatever, then it's only when we have some certain qualification being there that we can affect change in the world. And again, Prabhupada was looking, I've mentioned that before, in that very nice book that's written about the Bombay, the Juhu project, Let Me Create a Temple. I always forget Maharaj's name. forget his name. Anyway, that book is there, and Prabhupada was
Giriraj Maharaj.
thank you so much. Giriraj Maharaj's book, and there's a beautiful section in it where the governor is speaking to Prabhupada and saying how wonderful it was, Prabhupada, you've established this temple, and Prabhupada just goes, he sees the opportunity. As I mentioned, Krishna will give the so Prabhupada immediately sees the opportunity. He doesn't linger on being glorified for all that Prabhupada's doing. He just simply says, yes, this is the opportunity. You become, and he went straight to this governor and said, no, let us introduce this in the whole of India. Let us take that, and then the whole world will be affected. So he was just looking for a governor or a head of state or a prime minister that could get this knowledge, just like you and I have got it. It's the penny drops. We get it. So if the governor could get it, Prabhupada was like, okay, let's not talk about Bombay. Let's talk about the whole of India. Why? And he was trying to encourage him like that, because it is a very difficult task to affect that kind of change. But we could talk. There's so many levels of this. But I appreciate your question and your mood of wanting to help affect change. Krishna, big discussion.
Big. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? I think we better finish. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.